everybody. It is Good Monday this morning. Welcome to the first Monday's edition of Spiritual Healthcare, and I am super excited to get going this morning. I know most people are, hating on Mondays, but don't hate on Mondays, because guess what? Y'all home, so don't be hating on Mondays anymore. So I want to talk about a number of things today, and we're going to be going through some questions again, because we got lots of questions emailed in, which was fantastic. Lots about evidence and photography and orbs and stuff like that. So we're going to go through some of that today, as well as do a little bit of reading, as well as talking about some processes that you guys can do at home. And we're going to be talking about some things that you guys can be doing that I give my clients normally to help them combat mentally negative hauntings and things like that, but to get everybody kind of back on track with all the crazy that's going on, because a lot of the stuff that I give my clients will also be really, really great in this situation. So we want to get into that too. So I hope everybody's having an awesome Monday. And I think the best thing to do is get into some questions and stuff like that first, because I think that's going to all lead into what we're going to be talking about later. So I had some really great questions come up in regards to evidence and photography, and I know Sandy had mentioned at her with one of her questions, are orbs spirits? Are orbs spirits? Because orbs are kind of the bane of everybody's existence, right? When it comes to paranormal debate and all of that, and people go back and forth about what is this, what is that? How do we know the difference? Okay, so I'm gonna clear up the orb thing today, okay? Because this is something you guys can actually play around with at home if you guys have cameras. This is something you guys can experiment with at home and watch the results come up, okay? So let's talk a little bit about orbs to begin with. Now, when we're talking about orbs, what we're talking about are the opaque looking circles that people get in their photos, and then oftentimes they'll come and they'll be like, look, I've got all these ghosts in my photos, and there's these little opaque circles. So light energy orbs have manifested in various cases of hauntings often. Okay, so hi everybody watching. I notice there's people like coming in and whatever, so say hey and feel free to ask questions, throw questions in the chat box, and I'll get to them. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about orbs. Okay, we're talking about these little opaque, transparent looking circles in these photographs, and oftentimes they look kind of like this. This is a huge one. Okay, this is a big blow up picture of one, but you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. Now, here's the kicker, okay? So I work with multiple professional photographers who are absolutely amazing. They really, really know their stuff. And we have experienced bright orbs, light anomalies within the environment when we're dealing with hauntings and things like that. We'll see them zip in and out, and sometimes they're different colors, and it's really cool, and they'll like zip across and zip through a wall or something like that, or sometimes they'll linger and then change direction and then go the other way. But here's the thing. Those orbs, typically, when you catch them with a thermometer, like a laser thermometer, they're usually about 10 degrees hotter than the space, right? Because they're energy, they're like physical energy. So when we get into photography with these things, with orbs, what people are mistaking for orbs in photographs are not what I'm talking about here, okay? So what I'm talking about here with orbs in pictures and photos and things like that, those transparent sort of opaque things that you guys are seeing are often actual anomalies, and I'm going to explain, or actual natural anomalies, and I'll explain that here in just a second. So got a couple of really cool, actually, orb photos here for you guys. This one's really neat as well. Look at that, pretty? Okay, so here's the thing. Oftentimes we'll get a photo like this come in and people will go, oh my God, look what I caught. Here's the thing. This is actually not anything to do with the spirit at all, okay? This, believe it or not, anybody want to take a guess at what this is? This is actually pollen. This is actually a photograph of pollen. Yeah, I know, right? And it looked in the original photograph, this is expanded, but in the original photograph it looked like one of these little colored, you know, transparent, opaque things. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is the close-up of pollen. And this one, believe it or not, haha, big, beautiful, and some people actually see a face in this one too. Some people see a face in this one. This one is actually humidity, it's water droplets, okay? So here's how this happens in a photo. I'm going to use my phone for an example so you guys can understand how these are created in photographs. So when we take a look at our current, the usual photos, whether we're taking them with a phone camera or taking them with like one of the little Sure Shot cameras that we all used to have, what ends up happening is that you've got the lens and the flash that are like flush against the actual camera, right? Like they're flush against the camera. There's no space between them. Now, when you guys think of like a DSLR camera or a photographer's camera, like a professional camera, you'll think of a camera that's got a really long lens and then it's got the flash that kind of sits up at the back like this. So what ends up happening with a camera such as this is that that flash illuminates everything in front of that lens, okay? Everything. Like it wants to brighten everything up. So because it illuminates everything in front of that lens, it starts to shine on things in the environment like dust particles or humidity particles or all of these tiny little things that our eyes can't usually see. And what happens is, because they get illuminated right in front of that camera, our cameras are really, really smart now, right? So what they'll do is they're looking for things to focus on because they don't want to make your photo blurry. So your camera's looking for things to focus on, and what happens is they focus on these tiny little particles because that's what the flash is hitting. And now all of a sudden you've got, it expands, because what happens when you get too close to a camera and you take a picture? It's blurry, right? So that's what ends up happening with these tiny little particles. So you end up getting, things like this, water droplets, right? Or, you know, like humidity and things like that start to look super weird in the camera. Now, as I say, that is not to say, and that's also why, by the way, that professional cameras, like the DSLR cameras, don't capture as many of these. Okay, it's because of that, and that's also why there's been an explosion of this phenomenon in the last number of years, is because digital cameras are becoming more and more a thing. You know, they're getting more and more compact and things like that. So it's kind of interesting. Now, that being said, so we understand what these are. The cool thing is that every once in a while we will get a light anomaly that we can't quite explain. And I'm going to show you a picture of one that we ended up catching on one of my walking classrooms, which was pretty cool. So check that out. You guys can all see that. Super bright. There was no street lights and whatever, but it's kind of neat because it's got like that little tail and stuff like that as well. You guys can see that. It's pretty cool. And these we were actually seeing with the naked eye. I have a funny story about these actually on this same trail. One of my photographers and I, or two of my photographers and I, Zach and Greg, we were down in this area doing a case study, and we saw one of these big beautiful lights on the path next to us, because there was sort of a bike path and there was the trail that we were on, and it was so bright, and we were so convinced that it was a biker that was coming by with one of the LED bike lights on the front. Nobody put their camera up to take a picture because everybody was so convinced that it was a bike light, and we didn't realize until after it was gone that no, it was indeed one of those. So I know, it happens to the best of us. It kills me every single time I tell that story, and we still laugh about it. Okay, so photography is really interesting. Now, orbs and stuff like that are not the only thing that people debate about when it comes to interesting anomalies and lights and things like that. I want to show you guys a really cool photo. I'm going to take it out of the sleeve here because otherwise you're just going to get glare. These were really neat. So we caught these actually in the same area where I just told you guys, check this out, where I just showed you guys where that big bright light came from. And these were the coolest things. These still actually occur in that area, and they're really cool. They're different lights that are going in various directions, and they have these funny little kind of tails on them. They're really neat. So they show up Now, we still don't know what these are. We've had the Society of Entomology look at it and rule out bugs, and we've ruled out things like plasma and whatnot, because the area is actually used to be volcanic land. And when you have old volcanic land and quartz beds and stuff like that underneath the ground, what can happen is when you apply pressure to quartz for too long, okay, then what happens is you get the first form of energy, which is plasma. So you get these little lights that will show up. So it's always good to know the geology of your area. But we had to rule all that out, and we still don't know what, in fact, these are. They're really cool. I've got a few of them, actually. I'll show you guys another one. This one's really neat as well. This was captured. Oh, there's another orb photo I can show you guys. So those are pretty cool. And you've got they came in all sorts of colors. We had orange and white and all sorts of things. But they were coming in, they were creating all these different patterns, which was kind of neat. So anyway, you can sort of see why the difference between these versus something like these opaque orbs are significant, because those orbs we can naturally explain. Here's another one that's this one is people are always convinced they see a face in. This is actually dust. To see the face, it's kind of cute. It's all something called pareidolia. Your brain is constructing that face in there. It's not actually a face. This is dust. This is dust, everybody. This is not a ghost, okay? So, yeah. So, but yeah, I hope the orb explanation kind of begins to make a little bit of sense, because I know people get really confused over that. And there's always sort of a debate. People are always sending in photos going, oh my God, I caught this ghost. So what you guys can do today, if you guys want to play around with this whole idea that these opaque, orbs show up in photographs, is you guys can go to either, like, maybe you got, I don't know if you've got a sort of a dustier part of your house, or you could probably use something like baby powders and things like that, and get your phone on and start to experiment with a little bit. Clap the dust in front of the phone, turn the lights down, put your phone on video mode. It's easier to do it when you're actually filming, and see if you can recreate some of these, because they're actually quite simple. And once you get the lighting conditions right and things like that, all of a sudden you're going to have all of these little orb photos, because you're going to have particles everywhere. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that's a clear explanation of something that's anomalous versus something that has been proven time and again to be not paranormal. So there has been some incredible photos taken, though, over the years, and one of the neatest ones that I really get a kick out of was actually taken by a relative of mine on something called the Tulip Staircase. This is actually really, really cool. So I don't know how many people recognize this one. This is such a neat picture, and so significant. It was actually taken on the coast. It was on the Maritimes, and actually, yeah, it was taken by a relative of mine, which is kind of cool. A little bit of like added history into the world of the paranormal there. But when we get a photo like that, okay, one of the things that I always tell people, that if you're out and you're looking for photographic evidence or anything like that, the one thing I always tell people is take multiples of every single photo. It's what we call a control shot, okay? So a control shot is, hello Des, the control shot is when you're literally taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of every picture you're taking. And the reason why this is so significant is that by the time you guys get your photos and you send them to Entity Seeker or any other team, what ends up happening for us is that we've got to deconstruct how that photo happened, okay? So we've got to figure out what were the lighting conditions? Was this anomaly in the photos previous to this? Was this something in the space that's now being blurred or misconstrued as something else? So as many photos around the shot that you took is so important. It's so helpful. So I'm going to show you guys a case of mine that this became really, really important, okay? So we ended up, this was a number of years ago, catching this photo in a doorway in a client's home. The client, actually, he now works for me, which is kind of funny. But in a client's home, It's pretty cool. And it was probably the most significant shot that I've ever caught. There's nobody in the house at the time, and we were blown away. We did not see this until we got the photo back, and we were quite blown away. And you can see too. I don't know if you can see this or not, but you can see through her arm and things like that as well. And this particular condo had numerous residents in it. Reporting the same thing over and over and over again, the same types of hauntings. So it was really fascinating. But I could tell you guys whatever story you want to hear about this photograph, right? Because we've got all sorts of things. We got Photoshop, we got all, whatever. So I have to make an argument for this photo, and I have to be able to back it up, and I'm gonna do that. And the way I can do that, one of the ways, is with control shots. So these are the photos that were actually taken around this this really strange photo of this person in the doorway. And we don't see her in any of these shots except for this one here. This was the one that I blew up. Let's see. There we go. I'm still getting used to this webcam. Okay. So we start to look at this and we start to see, wait a minute. Here is, here's this person in the doorway, and they're not in any of the other shots. Now, if somebody was going to lean into this, or where is she? Lean into this doorway, right? And then lean back out again, we would have caught them in those other photographs, and we didn't. There's nothing there. So this is one reason why control shots are so important, so important. So we know that there was nobody in the house because we have multiple witnesses to that effect. She did not show up in any of the other photos. So now suddenly we start to be able to build a case that maybe this is something that is worth looking at. All right, so next time when we're all about allowed to go back outside again and things settle down and you guys are back doing this stuff, keep that in mind as you go forward. So I want to do a little bit of a reading today as well, because I think this is really significant. And back to Eckhart Tolle's oneness with all life again. Because there's so much good in this book. If you guys get a chance to read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, oh my God, do it. It's life changing people. Okay, life changing. Just read it. All right. Or you know what? No, you don't even have to go. There's ebooks now. What am I thinking? You guys can go and download it online. See how far behind I am? I'm regressing. I've been in the house too long already. Okay. So check this out. There are no random events, nor are there events or things that exist by and for themselves in isolation. The atoms that make up your body were once forged inside stars, and the causes of even the smallest event are virtually infinite and connected with the whole in incomprehensible ways. If you wanted to trace back the cause of any event, you would have to go back all the way to the beginning of creation. The cosmos is not chaotic. The very word cosmos means order, but this is not an order the human mind can ever comprehend, although it can sometimes glimpse it. Powerful words by Eckhart, and I think to touch on a bit about what he has said here, I think it really is important to really have some faith in the fact that this universe is very orderly, and like they were saying, oftentimes it doesn't seem to be that way, right? It seems like there's stuff that's going on that's beyond our control. We can't make sense of it, and our brains can't make sense of it. And I think it is time sometimes to take a step back and to just be still. Stop your minds, stop your brains from going crazy, and take a step back, take a step into yourself, and just be still and trust and just have some faith in whatever that is for you. Okay, so you've got to be able to do that, because as soon as we start looking at this like it's chaos and it's crazy and we can't control it, our brains start to tell ourselves a story, right? And we talked about that yesterday on the last spiritual healthcare, is that we tell ourselves a story, and the story that we tell ourselves about what's going on is going to shape our experience ultimately, because all we control is us. Okay, that's it, and that's not a new thing. That's something that is just being amplified by the current circumstances. But all we can do is thrive where we are. So I'm going to give you guys a tool that I use and my best friend uses all the time, that I think is so important, and it comes from the wonderful Esther Hicks and Abraham Hicks, Teachings of Abraham, and it is called a focus wheel, okay? So what you guys are going to do, and this is for when you're feeling kind of crappy, or it's for when you are feeling amazing and you want to amplify that feeling, okay? So it doesn't have to be when you're feeling like crap. It can be for when you're feeling great too. So what a focus wheel is you're going to get a piece of paper, okay? And you're going to draw yourself a wheel with all sorts of different segments. And you can put in as many segments as you want. It doesn't matter. I just drew this out because these are the ones I draw really quickly. And in the center of the circle, you're going to put in some sort of a sentence about how you want to feel as if it's happening right now, okay? So say you're feeling anxious about the current circumstances, and you don't want to feel anxious, you want to feel at peace, right? So in the middle of the circle, you're going to put, I feel at peace about everything, about the current circumstances and staying at home, all right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to start and you're going to look into yourself and identify where you are. Okay, so where are you? Anxiety, maybe frustration, maybe it's fear, maybe it's as low on that scale as fear. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to figure out what it is that you want to feel, and then you're going to start slowly working your way to that feeling. Okay, so in your first box, you're going to start searching for thoughts that feel a little bit better. So maybe you're in, let's say, frustration about having to stay home. So you start with things like, okay, you know what, I'm really frustrated, but at least I'm healthy. Okay, so it feels a little bit better, right, than just I'm frustrated and I'm annoyed that I'm at home. And then in the next one, you're going to find a thought that feels a little bit better than your last one. Okay, so you're going to find something like, I'm really thankful I've got all the food in my fridge is full, I'm okay, I'm not hungry, I'm not going to bed hungry, all right? So that goes into the next box. And then you're going to move to the next one, because now you're feeling a little bit better. You can kind of feel yourself moving to a better feeling place already, right? You're going to move to your next box and you're going to go, okay, I've got my food in the house, I'm healthy, I'm doing okay, whatever. Man, I've got some time to do some of the things that I really want to do that I wish I could have done on days off, right? So like, hey, that's cool. I've got maybe a little bit more freedom than I had when I was going to work for 8-9 hours a day. So let's put that in there. And maybe the next one is, I'm thankful that, hey, I've got financial, assistance or something like that. Maybe that can go in there. But you start to work your way around the circle, okay, until you get to the point where you're feeling that sense of peace. Okay, and as I say, it might take a number of these, okay, depending on where you are. It might take a few of these damn things to actually get yourself to where you want to be. But that is the focus wheel process. And I give this to my clients all the time because, as I say, they struggle often with feeling like, okay, I can't, I can't get emotionally to where I need to be. I don't know how to get from, fear to contentment or contentment to joy or whatnot. And the focus wheel is a fantastic way to do it. You can literally like keep a notebook in your pocket or something like that and do them on the fly. And, it's really, really awesome. And it's a great tool from the Teachings of Abraham Hicks, that, as I say, I pass on to clients all the time. So now, that being said, I'm already running over time. Again, this is a thing. Anyway, I hope you guys had a good time here at Spiritual Healthcare. We are, of course, going to be doing this again. Please join me on April the 4th. It's on a Saturday evening, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We are going to be doing ritual exorcism in film and television, but it won't be here on Facebook. It's going to be on Crowdcast, okay? So you guys are going to need a Crowdcast account to get in. Tickets are only $20. We're going to be, it's literally half the price of the live show, which is awesome. And it allows me to bring this to you guys and, sit around and talk about such a interesting subject. We're going to be hearing from Thomas Allen, who has the original journals from the Exorcist case. We're going to be talking about the history of the Enfield case, which was the film or the case featured in The Conjuring 2. We're going to be hearing actual recordings from that, all sorts of amazing things. So don't miss Ritual, Exorcism in Film and Television, April the 4th on Crowdcast. But you guys need a Crowdcast account, and it's free. So as I say, tickets are only $20 once you get on there, and I'm just so excited to be able to do that with you guys on April the 4th. So anyway, have an amazing Monday, guys, and I will talk to you all tomorrow at Spiritual Healthcare. If you guys have questions or anything like that, please message me on Facebook, post them in the comments. If you don't want to, if you don't want your name read or anything like that, then, I totally won't. Just tell me. And yeah, all right. Bye, guys.